We had several questions in class about what the greenhouse effect is. It wasn't really clear to a lot of people yet, so I want to take an opportunity here to go through a short demonstration and show you a little bit more about it and try to hopefully simplify it so that you guys can get a decent understanding of what we're talking about. First thing we start with here is understanding that obviously we got the sun and the earth, and we've got different types of radiations that come off the sun. One of the main types of radiation that comes off the sun is an ultraviolet radiation, which is a very short wavelength, and it can travel through the atmosphere all the way to Earth. To have a decent understanding when we talk about the UV radiation traveling all the way to Earth, we have to remember that we do have the ozone layer, which will absorb some of that radiation. But the ozone layer does not have anything to do really with the greenhouse effect other than limiting how much ultraviolet radiation gets to Earth in the first place. So it really doesn't come into play here. It is much higher than a lot of these greenhouse gases that we have. And what we have here in these greenhouse gases are, again, some gases like carbon dioxide, which is one of the main ones, methane, which is another key one, and of course some water vapor. And these are all different types of gases that exist in the atmosphere much lower than in the ozone. And these gases become important we'll explain why here in a few minutes. Now, back to the radiation. The ultraviolet radiation will strike the Earth, and a lot of it is absorbed, and then some of it is re-radiated, not necessarily reflected, but re-radiated. Again, when the Earth gets warm and some of that heat is given off, it is given off as infrared, which is a little longer wavelength, which is a little different wavelength. The ultraviolet can pass directly through carbon dioxide and methane and that water vapor without much resistance. But infrared does not pass through those gases. And again, we call these the greenhouse gases. Those gases will absorb infrared radiation. And again, we associate infrared with heat. And they will sometimes then even maybe radiate some of that back toward the Earth as well. But if we get too much of these gases, we can have an overabundance of warmth absorbed, and that's where you get the idea of global warming. But the whole idea of the greenhouse effect is very simple. It is ultraviolet radiation coming in. It strikes the Earth. It is absorbed by the Earth. Then it is re-radiated back as infrared radiation. That infrared radiation is absorbed by the greenhouse gases. And when they absorb it, it holds in heat, and that warms us up. As your notes mentioned yesterday, as your textbook mentions, it gives you a kind of a surplus of heat, but that's what allows us to stay warm, much like a greenhouse allows the air around plants to stay warm as well. And that's the simplest way of describing the greenhouse effect.